Salmon play an important role in the ecosystem, especially here on Vancouver Island. Salmon benefit other species as food, and their bodies enrich the habitat through the cycling of nutrients from the ocean to freshwater streams. Over the decades, salmon have faced many challenges, such as deforestation and climate change. Because of this, the salmon population must rely on humans to help if they are to survive. At the south end of Nanaimo lies a place you may not have heard of, the Nanaimo Hatchery, a place dedicated to improving the health and numbers of local salmon stocks. To understand more, I spoke with Brain Hermann of the Nanaimo Hatchery. Why was the Nanaimo Hatchery built in the first place?
It was sort of established in the late 70s, early 80s, sort of to offset sort of natural environmental conditions that were sort of degrading in the river, to sort of boost local salmon populations and to do some assessment work in the local area.
Over the years, what are some of the most difficult challenges the hatchery has faced?
Well, currently it's funding. The hatchery, so we're sort of what's called a CEDP hatchery, which is a community economic development project. So we get an annual contract from the federal government to oversee the hatchery. We're actually a nonprofit society that oversees the hatchery, but our funding has been the same. It's been stagnated since the sort of mid-90s. So we're on a fixed budget from the 90s, and with all the costs of everything, going up significantly, it's becoming very challenging to continue to operate the way we are. Infrastructure, wages, just fish food, everything has been a challenge. And the other thing, I guess it would be sort of environmental conditions. We have to go out to the river to collect all of our adult salmon when they return to the river. So we go from anywhere from extreme temperatures to extreme drought to flooding events like we have right now today. So it's very variable, and it's something that we can't control, but we just have to sort of adapt to.
How would you say is the hatchery tied into the food chain and ecosystem?
Well, I'll get back to that point. We're making sure that there's salmon returning, so that has a trickle-down effect throughout the environment with everything from nutrients back to the environment, feeding the eagles. For instance, right around the hatchery, we have eagles that are here till from now till the beginning of February. Once the herring start spawning out in the ocean locally, they sort of rely on the food source around the hatchery. We have adult coho salmon here till almost the beginning of February every year. So it's a reliable food source. Those adults now in the spring decay, providing food for the juveniles and nutrients for the system.
What is the hatchery's greatest victory?
I think just maintaining salmon stocks and just the relationships we've also built with the community, with local First Nations and sort of a stewardship groups around. We've been here for over 30 years now, and just being able to get out in the river and sort of maintain the stocks in the river. When you see other streams in the local area, their stocks have taken much different turns than ours have. Like theirs are, like we have the Chemainus River just south of us, and some of their stocks are extremely depressed. Ours have been excellent over the years, but we've maintained a sort of a fairly good baseline of salmon returning. It varies year to year, but for the most part, we've managed to keep the salmon stocks going locally.
Okay, and last question. How can people help Nanaimo Hatchery?
I guess just like mostly awareness, knowing that we're here, knowing what we do, sort of supporting what we do. We do, from time to time, we do call on volunteers. One of the biggest things is like when we have our open house, like we said, it is a fundraiser that we do. So, people can, it is one of our big ways of sort of procuring funds for, replacing a work truck or different things. So if there are people that wanting to help, like financially is our biggest constraint right now. So that's sort of our biggest challenge. Because of increased costs and limited government funding, the Nanaimo Hatchery depends heavily on volunteers, donators, and fundraising events, but it's still struggling. We all value the splendor of nature that Nanaimo and Vancouver Island as a whole has to offer,
But it's important that we understand what a tremendous role salmon plays in the circle of life and the overall ecosystem. Sadly, though, not a lot of people know of the Nanaimo Hatchery, let alone what a hatchery even is. So, I hope this film brings attention to the Nanaimo Hatchery and that it may inspire you to be a volunteer.